call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane live action figure collection. Now today we'll be taking a look at Supergirl from the upcoming The Flash movie. Now when I first heard about this figure, even when I heard about the rumors, I was really looking forward to it. Then we got images of the girl that would be Supergirl. I think her name's Sasha Kala or something like that. I thought it was interesting, you know. Usually when they take stuff from the comics or storylines and they move them to live action, they are never exactly how they were. So they make their own little twist to adapt it to, you know, to make it into the film. For example, even though everybody loves the Joker from The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's version, a lot of times they forget that he is not a version straight out of the comics. He is a completely different version of the Joker, but nobody ever really says that. They just say that he's the best Joker ever, but they don't complain that he's not exactly like in the comics, which usually they they say that when they complain about things not being the same compared to the source material. But that just goes to show us that when we get live action characters, we just have to accept them for what they are. And what it really is all about is the costume design and the performance that the actor or actress puts in there. Now, even worse, when I finally did see images of this figure, wasn't a big fan of the face sculpt, wasn't a big fan of like the way they designed the suit. It made her look like too frumpy or too bulky in the midsection. And there are tons of images of this version of Supergirl online that they could have got for reference. But as always, I like to take what McFarlane gives us and make it my own and add my own little touches to all of these figures. Now she does look pretty super in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at her. But first, she does come with the McFarlane flight stand. Now it's actually been a while since I reviewed a figure that came with a flight stand. Clear plastic with a DC emblem, and you know, you slide this foot into here. These are useful. I mean, you could use them. I rarely do because I don't really have too many figures that I pose on a flight stand, and they're still good to have on hand. And I actually have a box full of hundreds of these, so we'll add this to the collection. Now she also comes with her data file card. On the front you have another one of these comic book inspired images, but that are actually based on the characters from the film. Now she looks really good in this image. I like the pose they have her in and the way her suit is designed. It just looks all really good. But it's not the way the figure came out, but you know, oh well. On the back we do have some information. Kara Zor-El. Pretty cool. I am anticipating going to see this movie. Don't really care anything else except for if the movie's good or not. And even the way I do figures, that I don't take people's word for it. They could say a figure is you know, crap, and then I get it and I love it. So go see the movie if you want to. If you don't want to, don't. But make up your own mind if it's good or not. Now she does come with 2 accessories, which would be alternate hands. Right now she comes with 1 gesturing hand and 1 fist. But you actually have the option of switching out to give her like the double fisted look or the double gesturing hands. Pretty cool. They have that like wrap around her hands that is connected to her costume. Pretty hip. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at her. Alright. First impressions, as I said, the costume looks pretty good. It's just the midsection looks, you know, for me is just like too wide, so she kind of looks like heavy in the hips. But I do love the design of the S shield. I love the design of the suit with the red trim. I mean, everything is pretty nice. I just do not like the way they shape the trunks. But for what she looks good. I mean, it is reminiscent of the way she looks in the film. Love that S shield. Surprisingly, she does have a a nice bosom on her, and then it goes down into those big trunks. I just don't know why they make them so big, but I will be adjusting that, and we'll take a look at that later on. Take a look at the head sculpt now. This is a weird, like, I don't know what it is. For me, the head kind of looks like those resin heads that Hasbro was selling that look like wax. It's just the way it looks to me. It's like all one tone, and it's a weird tone. The hair also is like light brown with streaks of kind of blonde in there, which is not accurate because in the trailers you could tell that she has mostly like black, jet black hair. So that's rather interesting. Another thing is like the nose. I don't know why, but it just seems like too wide for some reason. I did look up images of her, and sometimes she does have kind of a wide nose. So I guess that this kind of matched, her look. But it's weird because if you turn this figure, you kind of get to a point, and when you get to that point, stop. Right there. It does look like her. You could see it. Like, it's right there. It looks like her. But once you turn it out of that position, yeah, it no longer resembles her. So it's pretty weird. Like, you could see it's in there, but it has to be at a certain angle. But I will tackle the head as well and repaint it and add my own little flair to it. But let's take a look at the articulation. She does look down very well. Now, she also looks up, which will help in flight poses. Pretty nice range. You got right to left. And you could tilt her head for some character. Nice, smooth articulation at the head. Let's go ahead and take a look at the waist articulation. You do have side to side. You got that full tilt-a-whirl at the waist, actually pretty smooth. Could twist her, get her in some cool poses. She does have a crunch, pretty nice. You could see, I'll show you right here, where you push down and the upper torso actually touches the top of the waist. So, more above average crunch, and of course you could lean her back. Kind of get her in that pose from the trailer. I just think this figure is so simple, and if you were to add some touches to it, it would just take it to that next level and bring out the cool factor in this figure that's kind of just missing. Let's take a look at the shoulder. She does have that socket bushing McFarlane shoulder joint. It has cool range. You also have these cutouts where you could the ring could like push into there, but you still get up and down, front to back, bicep swivel, and double jointed elbows. Actually look pretty clean, pretty nice. Going from the shoulder, you got that stripe from the suit going down into those like wrist wrap hands. Now the suit has tons of little texture, very reminiscent of the Cavill suit. You have one part that has like a texture, like a micro texture, but then you have another part that just has like kind of Kryptonian little designs in there. So I do like the suit. I do like the way she looks in the images that we've seen. It's just that the figure is a whole nother monster. Now, if you go to the other side, you have the same thing, but this arm does lead into a hand, like for gesturing. And as I said before, they did do a good job where now you could pop off the hands rather easily, and the alternate hand pops in pretty simply. Now I actually prefer her like this, double-fisted. And of course they do have the wrist articulation that McFarlane gives us. 4 ways, swivel and hinge. Get her into a pretty nice T-pose. Could move her arms above her head. And then, like I said, she has those cutouts where you can actually put her arms in there. Get her arms, close together for flying poses. Nice little added articulation there. Now let's go down to the thighs. Check out the thigh swivel. She does have some thigh swivel. If you warm this up, you could probably get a little bit more out of it once you rock it back and forth. But this allows you to move the foot from side to side without having a thigh cut to break up the sculpt. So you can have that human articulation without having the thigh cut. She can kick up really high, kick back as well. Now don't be afraid, because the trunks are made of rubber and they're made to get out of the way, and when you move them back they actually go back to their original position. You can cock out her knee. She has that cool McFarlane hip swivel. Double jointed knees, straighten them out, up and down at the ankle, right to left, rocker, and toe articulation. Now before we go, let's take a look at this lower body. Same thing, you have to see the intricate detailed sculpt work in here. A nice kind of textured bead on some part of the costume, going down into other parts that have like little ridges of Kryptonian design. She has like those kind of like onesie boots, for her costume. But it does look really good. It has some cool wrinkle designs in there. All in all, looks good. Like I said, the figure's almost there, but they just dropped the ball. They could have made it a lot nicer. Take a look at her from the bottom. Some interesting Kryptonian tread at the bottom of her booties. Moving up the back, you can see more of that cool design. I love how the knee hinges actually have sculpt work into them, and then going into that wide butt. I don't know why they cut the trunks like this. They should have had a more sleeker, cleaner cut, which would be, more flattering for her instead of this wide. The way they cut it just looks unappealing. Moving up the back, got some interesting design of the suit, and then more texture in the upper back. Now you got the cape. Interesting, this one is not as soft as usual. It's actually kind of thick in some parts, but it does work well. And as I said, if you get her in flight poses, she does look pretty good. So all in all, pretty nice figure. I do like her hair. That's another thing that I really liked, is her like kind of bob short haircut. Looks good. Something different. So all in all, she looks pretty good. Now, I did only compare her up to the only other figure from this wave that I have, which is the Batfleck version of Batman. So let's see what he looks like next to her. Now I did start working on him where I wanted to add his little chin dimple, and then I'm gonna do like a rewash paint on his exposed part of his cowl, that way just to see if it changes like the tone of it. And then I'm gonna paint the eyes white, because right now they're just like a grayish color. I'll show that later on in another video. But getting back to her, let's go ahead and look at the changes that I did. First, let's start off with the trunks. Now, I did get some footage this time of how it looks when I remove them and then cut them. Now, I don't cut them all the way down. I leave the outer, ring around, kind of like where the thighs go, connected. That way, when you do articulate her, it doesn't rip there. because you are going to glue this back together. But that gap that I cut out is what closes it to make it tighter. And then I just glue both sides, let it dry, and then give it some paint. Now it came out pretty clean. Another thing I did was change the cut of them, where I cut them a little bit higher at the thigh, and then of course on the back side I cut them. And it now, you know, if she's kind of bent over, she has a little bit more, you know, nicer backside than the way they had it looking before. Once again, I just used the Three Jokers Batgirl to kind of give me like an idea of what they should look like, the cut of the trunks. And like I said, now she looks pretty nice. And also when you cut it and put it back together, it gives you like a leaner, more tighter, snugger fit around the waist, so it doesn't look so bulky. So actually now with the modifications, she looks really good. Nice figure. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the head. Now I did like a sort of technique where you add different layers of different colors to bring out like little different like crevices and stuff like that. If you look at the original version, it was just like no depth at all. It's just one solid color. And now she does have a little bit of, you could see like right here between her cheek and her mouth, you could see a little bit of darker line and around her nose. So that was like a little wash sort of technique that I did. But then I did paint her eyes. I just think they were like too wide, and you could see too much white. Just to reduce the whiteness of the eyes and make them a little bit more closed up, give her a little bit more, I don't know, I guess like sultry look. Touched up her eyebrows, like they had like a block ending right here, like a kind of squared off ending. So I kind of rounded them off a little bit. The way that some paint changes the way the figure looks. And then I also did the hair. Now, in a lot of the images, you see her have like a lot of bangs. And it's weird that McFarlane decided just to give her hair like solid, like a solid piece of hair. They even gave bangs to the Nightwing, the last Nightwing that they released. And this one just didn't get no love. So I went ahead and made her like a couple of little, you know, hanging parts of her hair of bangs. And then I added some blue so you could see the highlights in there. And then in some little parts I added gloss, black gloss, just to give it like highlight, like where the light's hitting it. Now her hair looks really awesome. Now all together with the redoing of her face, adding the hair, the little strands of hair, and repainting her hair, and now she looks like 100 times better. And then the final thing I did, of course, was paint her whole suit. Now I kind of started off painting the trunks because they were actually like a different color than the rest of the suit. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just paint up where I cut the trunks and then touch it up. But then I just kept going. So I ended up painting the whole blue part. I did leave some like in the original color just to give it some contrast. But I don't know if you could see this, but she looks really, really good now. So with that, you know, metallic blue paint that I added, and then her like a little bit of touch-ups to her face, just makes her look a lot better. Could get her in some floating poses. She has the gesturing hands that you could switch out to. Now I'm really enjoying her, and she's, you know, really interesting. Loving the way she looks. So, pretty weird. That's why I always say that you could add your own little touches to the figures to make them your own, and then you really enjoy them more than the way they came. I also had heard that she's kind of hard to stand, but I mean, I don't get it. To me, she stands pretty simply. Don't get it. She stands really nice. The cape, you know, all you have to do is position her, you know, get that sweet spot, and she stands perfectly. Now, another thing I wanted to do was put her on the Batwing, just so you could see how enormous the Batwing is and how small she looks, like compared next to it. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. For me, I'm happy with her now after the changes. I will probably only ever buy one more of her in box and then just leave it in box for my unopened collection. But this will be the one I display on my shelf up here with my live action figures. But you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.